So my name is Stina Saunders, and I'm doing a PhD at the University of Edinburgh, where I'm involved with the Epad participant panel, which is what I'm here to talk to you about today. So, as we are all aware, over the years there have been a number of unsuccessful drug studies in Alzheimer's disease, and there are currently only 4 treatments available for the use in Alzheimer's dementia. So it was clear that there was a need for a new way of running Alzheimer's disease trials. So in 2015, the European Dementia of Alzheimer's Dementia was launched. The European Prevention of Alzheimer's Dementia, or Epad in short, is one of the biggest Alzheimer's drug studies in the world, with funding of €64 million. There are several parts to the Epad study, 2 of the main parts being the Longitudinal Cohort study, where there are currently over 1,000 research participants, and and the linked drug trials. So the drug trials recruit participants straight from the Longitudinal Cohort study. The drug trials haven't yet started, but they're due to start in late 2019. We call the Longitudinal Cohort study a readiness cohort because it's... Thank you. So we call the Longitudinal Cohort study a readiness cohort because these participants are ready to take part in the drug trial once these come available. Now, in order to understand why we created the Epad participant panel, it's vital to appreciate what is involved for a participant when taking part in the Epad study. So the process starts with a phone call from the research team, which usually lasts about maybe 20 minutes, where we explain everything what's involved with the study. And here we emphasize that should people choose to take part in the study, then they might be offered a chance to take part in a drug study, which would mean that they would be informed of what their risk status is for developing dementia. So it's quite a big ethical decision. We then ask the participants to come into the study center together with their study partner. At that visit, we consent the participant and we take their biological samples, so a blood, urine, and saliva sample. While the participant has breakfast, then we interview the study partner and we do the clinical dementia rating scale. Afterwards, the participant sees the study doctor, who does a medical examination, such as an ECG and blood pressure. Then there is a small break, followed by an MRI scan, which lasts for about 1 hour. And the day ends with about 2 hours of cognitive assessments. We then ask the participant to come back on a separate day to undergo a lumbar puncture, which is when we take spinal fluid from the lower back. And usually these visits are done, these assessments are done over 2 or 3 days. Now, the key message here is that these visits are repeated annually, and it is vital for the longevity of this study that participants do and want to come back for their study assessments every year. So this is why we have created the participant panel. Here is a photo of the Epad consortium, and I would like to particularly draw attention to Brian, who is one of our Epad study participants. And the voices of the participants like Brian are incredibly important for this study, and we have had a lot of input from the participants, which is why we've had to structure the way we get the participants' voices heard. And this is why we have created the participant panel. Note that there are several aims to the participant panel. First, it is to provide feedback on the good and the bad elements of taking part in the study and to suggest recommendations for improvements. We want to ensure that participants are involved in any of the decision-making that involves them, such as any sub-studies or study logistics. We might also ask participants to review the study documents, which are aimed at participants, such as information sheets or recruitment flyers. And finally, we also ask participants to communicate about the study together with the study team at national or international conferences. The way the panel works is that each of the study sites that runs the Epad study can have its own panel with usually about 6 to 8 people, members in the panel. So these panels feed into the Epad-wide participant panel. And for the panel meetings, the panel members set the agenda and they chair the meeting with a local primary investigator present and any of the local research team present. The research team supports the panel by organizing the meetings and ordering catering and that sort of thing. So this sort of structure ensures that the participant voices are heard across the Epad project. Because of the significant involvement on the part of the participants in this study, then we want to ensure that the participants are as equal collaborators in the study, and we recognize the value of the participants' contribution to the project. We also want to bring on board retention ideas from the participants and ensure that the participants' perspectives are heard all through the study. The participant panel allows us to address any issues directly, such as to do with study logistics, which might affect future involvement in the study. And also, like I said, improve study documentation and, for example, the Epad website. Now, I would like to introduce you to Eileen and Brian, who are 2 of the Epad participants who will talk about their involvement with the Epad study.
Okay, the participant panel group, that was like in I think Edinburgh was one of the first centres to start up in Scotland. And there's no question that Professor Craig Ritchie and the whole team is actually trying to go about things the right way. So, because we were one of the first groups to be set up, the first group to be set up in Scotland, we got an opportunity to be part of the participants panel. We volunteered. And in a nutshell, there's a group of participants, small group of participants, and other personnel that relate to the project that meet on a regular basis, typically once every 6 months. 3 real objectives. One is to give feedback on their experiences, you know. The other is to get a greater insight into the Epad project, which has just amazed me how big it is and how well organised it is. And also, really, we also encourage promotion of Epad out with the meetings.
Staff are very willing to listen, and that is something they really do. I have been so impressed by how they listen. Right away, when we said at our very first meeting that it might be difficult for people to come into central Edinburgh for 9 o'clock, Edinburgh time, we try not to do that anymore. So the next meeting was lunchtime. Very lovely venue, went along, all talked. Next time we said it might be fairer to be more central for other people. We met in Perth. So they really are listening to us.
So, so far, the participant panels run in 2 countries, with the rest of the countries' panels in the setup stage. Finally, I would like to mention 2 specific examples of how we've worked with the panel. We recently redesigned our whole study website, and upon the request of the participants, we added a new tab for research participants. And we worked with the panel on what sort of content they would like to find on the website. And one of the feedback that we got was that our participants came across a lot of acronyms in our study documents, and they asked to have a source where all these acronyms are defined and explained. So we are doing that for our website as per the request of the participants. Now, there are several ways of the participants to feedback their experiences via the panel, and one of these is through the Eta General Assembly, which is a big meeting where all the investigators meet once a year. Over the last 2 years, the Epad participant representatives have been present at the General Assemblies, and the idea here is that the participants would learn more about the project and feed back to their local panel, but also for the participants to offer insights into what it's like to be a participant at the Epad study to the whole consortium. And we hope that by approaching the participants as equal collaborators in the study, we achieve higher retention rates. So far, the retention rates in Epad are very high, and we've been able to retain more than 90% of our participants in the study. Now, just a few key messages to finish my talk. Epad is a massive, global important study to prevent Alzheimer's dementia. And participants' voices are vital to the success of the study, and we think that the participant panel is a mechanism to have that heard. Now, here are a few acknowledgements to recognise the investments from the IMI and the European Union. Thank you very much for your attention, and thank you for inviting me to give this talk.